Hey teachers, most of us in our classrooms are teaching children who have education, health and care plans in place. Now these children have very often been through fairly lengthy processes of assessment and have quite detailed descriptions of their needs and their underlying learning difficulties. Now, how that translates into the classroom and how you adapt your teaching based on that can sometimes be quite difficult to work out and also quite time consuming. EHCPs can be kind of quite long, complex documents, and actually they can be supported by some even longer diagnostic assessments. What I've done is I've created a format to help you interrogate the EHCP and get out of it what might be useful in terms of your own planning. Okay, I think the easiest way to do this is if I work with you through the document and you can see what my prompts are. It's an Excel format, so you can adapt it to include and to remove as many questions as you want. You can also use it to keep track of your own planning and to keep a record of how many times you've checked in as things progress and move on as you work to support that young person. Okay, let's have a look at the format. Okay, if we look down the left-hand side, obviously you might want to put the name of the pupil on the form, and then there are some suggestions for your preparation down here where my cursor's moving. You can do a quick yes or no check and then note down anything that you might need to do. Or actually information you might need to obtain, and then quickly date that so you know when you last checked in. So first of all, and most importantly, have you read the description of that child's needs and the agreed outcomes? What is it that that child is working towards in terms of their speech language communication, or social emotional mental health needs, or physical and sensory needs, or indeed their cognitive needs? Okay, so what are the outcomes? What are they working towards? Are there specific adjustments to be made to language and communication? Is this a child that you're going to need a visual timetable for? Is it a child that you might be using a system like PECS for? Is it a child who you may be wanting to use some Makaton and some sign language with? So what do we know about communication? And what follows on from that is there technology to be used there to support that as well? Are there adjustments to be made to the environment? Is physical access an issue? Is it necessary that that child be closer or further away from a board or a certain stimulus? And then we're really getting into it with number 9. What additional or alternative resources are necessary? Whenever I talk about resources, I always remind everyone that, you know, resources come in a number of forms. So they might be material, they might be digital, they might be technological. And I mean low tech to high tech. You know, it may be just that they need a mini whiteboard or post-it notes or spare paper to write on, or it might be that they need a latex cover for their desk so that their paper sticks. It might be they need a laptop. It might be they need something else. So what are the alternative resources they need? And think about those 4 categories. Oh yes, of course, human resources. Is there a TA involved or someone supporting them? Are there adjustments to be made to the actual curriculum content or the pace at which that child's going to work through that content? Are there clear next steps towards any EHC objectives for this term? What do we know about their progress so far? Have you looked at the annual review that last took place, or possibly reviews of their pupil passport or IEP that will let you know how far they've already travelled? Would it be handy to meet before and introduce yourself? For example, if a child's particularly anxious about school or your subject, or has, you know, very specific adjustments to be made, are there things available, maybe even outside your classroom, that you think might be helpful in terms of the work that you're doing? Have you met, been introduced, had a conversation with the support staff involved, if indeed there are support staff involved? And the next question, 15, relates to another format that's taken from the book for TAs, which is an agenda for in-class support. Has that agenda been agreed? That's following a discussion with you and the TA, if there is one, or the LSA. And there's another video coming that talks in more detail about that in-class support agenda. It might be nice to know the points of feedback, whether there's an annual review coming up, whether there is a review of an intermediary stage of an IEP, whether there's an opportunity to feedback to parents. And the other thing is, if there are other external specialists working with the child, do you have an opportunity to meet those people? Do you have an opportunity to ask them any questions? Very often, if a speech and language therapist has been working with the child, it's quite helpful to talk through the work that child's been doing on their language, and to get a sense of how that might translate into your classroom. It may well be that your school uses IEPs or pupil passports that have some kind of distillation of the information in the diagnostic reports, or indeed in the Ehcp, and that would be obviously really helpful to look at too. But I'd still advise you to have a look at the Ehcp at least once to familiarise yourself with the process that this child's been through. Click the link below to download the format.